Hopefully the lore will not be lost.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, okay, she's an enigma to you. You haven't figured it out, but your
Mm.
insight, I will say, you would be keyed in on this. This is what you pick up as you notice that a lot of the ovens and even the floor in some ways, because of how you walked on it, and the table itself seems to be have a significant amount of iron in it.
Iron. Hmm. Okay, that would produce a curiosity in my mind that I would probably switch to my Arcana mode of mind to see what would the significance be of that from an arcane perspective.
Yes.
And you said iron, not lead.
Oh, sorry, lead. Yes, I meant lead. I meant lead.
Ah, well, if it's lead, then I already know.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry.
and I'm going to risk a little more. You know, I couldn't help but notice that there's a lot of lead content in this kitchen, and you know, I hope I'm not forward. I'm somewhat of a practitioner, and I know that the iron can, I'm sorry, lead can really serve to ensure that mages can live their lives undisturbed by
Oh, she said,
unnecessary
you
government
know,
intervention, shall we say.
yes, she says, well, around here, we just call them bakers.
Interesting.
Yes.
Ah.
You know, you bake things. Bake.
Mhm.
So,
Ah, I love that expression actually, you know, because it's applied confectioners. And it
yes,
makes so much sense, but it's completely innocuous. That's fabulous.
it is, I think.
Uh,
And you
I have
know,
to admit, I'm part of I'm part of a like-minded group of bakers, as you would call them,
are you? She said.
and we sort of see ourselves as librarians who
Librarians, do
were,
you make
yeah.
cookbooks?
Well, what we do is we realize that there's been a monopoly on some of the best cookbooks, and we
Yes,
think that's wrong because if a recipe is wonderful, why should it not be shared with everyone?
you're so
And
right.
we're hoping the day will come that people can just go into these libraries again and just see this feast of books with all these wonderful recipes, and it will bring more joy and peace again.
It certainly would, she says. You know, the recipe for mincemeat pie has been long lost, as is the scone. There was a scone recipe I'm also searching for, and
Mm.
that one has been good. But I know blueberries, and I know the muffins and some of the other pies, some of your basic ones like apple
Mm-hmm.
and blueberry, and you know, I do have my eyes set on a pecan pie once, but um anyway, yes. How long have you been a practitioner of this? And I wonder how then I might help you, she says. I do have another blueberry
Well,
muffin. I know I'm sorry if I'm filling you up, but I here and she passes you another blueberry muffin and takes
well, I
one for
appreciate it
herself.
because I suspect in the next 24 hours I won't have much time to eat because I'm sure you've heard of this thing going on tonight in the stadium,
Oh,
the
yes.
Worthington tribute with this band and things like that.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I've been practicing for maybe 7 or 8 months now. Uh, I got involved in the movement when I saw how this desire to hoard the books could cause a lot of woe, even lives of a lot of people who really had nothing to do with it. And it kind of opened my eyes to what was going on. And it was sort of in that same moment that I saw some like-minded librarians who just wanted to be librarians, and we connected.
Mm.
So I and some colleagues, we actually, uh, can we, is it okay if we talk plainly, or do you suspect someone might discover us? I mean, do we still need to couch it in the language of confectionery?
One moment, she says. Just a second. Let me check on a few
Okay,
things. And
okay.
she gets up and she moves over, rustles down the hallway out of sight. A few minutes go by, you hear some clanging on some things and some banging on some other things, and she comes back and she says, "That'll do it. I think now we could talk without concern."
Thank you. It is such a relief to be able to speak with a fellow practitioner because it just involves so much risk. But the vendor led me to believe that I could meet someone here named codenamed Chestnut who would be able to help me because I know something big is going down tonight, but I've reached the limits of the expertise that I've managed to cobble together between myself and the library and my own investigations.
Well, tell me what you know, and perhaps I can add some things to it. Some
Yes, I it turns out you know the matinee of the bards, Worthington was apparently assassinated.
Keyword apparently correct, I would imagine.
Yes, apparently.
Yes. Yes.
And an associate of mine who was there came into the Thugenheim's confidence and saw that they whisked away the corpse of Worthington.
Mm.
They replaced it with another corpse that they imposed the image of Worthington on it. And the original corpse turned into ice and melted away down a drain into water. Now, only later on in a little bit of my investigations that I know about simulacra. So it seemed to me that that was, in fact, from the beginning, a simulacrum of Worthington, and
Yes.
that at least this faction of the Thugenheims was helping him to engineer his deception.
Yes.
Now, per se, that could mean many things. It could mean that he wanted to get out of the business and in such a powerful role. Could be he wanted to go on some special mission and he was going to be away for a time and he didn't want the city to panic. But it was kind of a strange way of doing it. So little by little, making inquiries, I and my associates came to the conclusion that Worthington was in fact still alive. He's masquerading as someone else, and he's found some way to construct simulacra of the key leaders of the city and retain at least enough of their personality and memories that people think they're those people, but it doesn't hold up under deeper scrutiny if you knew them in terms of private conversations and things. So I heard of at least one case, Thurston,
Mm.
uh, the publisher. My associates had an encounter with him right before he went to go speak with the king, who those close to him had said his personality had changed recently after a prolonged sort of period of stupor and sickness.
Mm.
And after that, they saw Thurston's body being taken away, taken to Worthington's tower, it turns out.
Mm.
And Thurston was then back in the public eye. And we were able to determine that Thurston, in fact, was not Thurston, but he was maintaining the appearances. It also seems that of the 8, something similar happened to at least 6 of them. Because
Interesting.
in the concert with the king, they all clapped almost in unison with everything that the king was saying. So the king seems to have been co-opted by Worthington. If he's not Worthington himself, who's conducted some shapeshift. I wasn't around to be able to do those sort of inquiries, but it probably would have revealed my arcane instruction too. So we went to go see the half-orc's name was Ainsworth.
Oh, Grognard, yes.
Grognar, I'm sorry. Uh, Grognar, apparently we found some correspondence that Worthington tried to do it to him, but it didn't work. So
Yeah.
we tried to fish information out of Grognar. Grognar tried to recruit us for conspiring with him against Worthington, and we gave him the impression that we were favorable. But Grognar is doing something evil at his tower too. There's illusion, some sort of enchantment, and maybe even some necromancy going on. So Grognar is going to be a problem too. Whatever it is, he's biding his time. It doesn't seem like he's part of what Worthington is doing.
No.
So in the process of that, it was revealed that uh, Worthington Worthington and the council disagreed on what to do about what they perceived as a resurgence of the storm giants. We found this out in a later conversation, that the storm giants were going to come back and attack the city. And in the past, when that happened, that awoke a creature underneath the city called the Essence Devourer. That's woken by strong disturbances of magic and projects an avatar of itself in those moments and attacks the city. And we don't have a lot of clarity yet on whether the storm giant attack was simply a historical cover up, if you will, of what was actually the Essence Devourer projecting the avatar, or his avatar either subjugated or looked like a storm giant to be part of that. But Worthington had a great fear that it would be released again. Such a great fear that he disagreed with the Council of Eight's plan. And then apparently he put this into motion to make them basically extensions of his will, apparently, so that he could enact his plan. And he also co-opted the king. He's very interested in finding the princess. The princess is in a safe location right now. Someone, another contact, had found and had Netta's body.
She kind of opens her eyes at that. Interesting.
Yeah. And we managed to procure a very special scroll to speak with Netta. And Netta told us that she had been killed by Worthington a certain period ago. The body is still safely secured away. The spell scroll had to be returned to its location. Apparently it's an inexhaustible spell scroll, something that's fascinating. I didn't understand it entirely. But when that spell was cast, one of my agents saw a strange apparition in the sky of hands, almost looking like they were trying to push into our reality. So apparently even that magic risked bringing the Essence Devourer. From what he describes, that's my best educated guess. So we managed to infiltrate Worthington's tower because I knew the key was figuring out what was going on in Worthington's tower. So under the guise of a roadie of this band, I don't know if you heard of them, they're very vogue in the city right now, Marshmallow and the Breakfast Club. I infiltrated their roadie team, and I found that there was a way to go up to the upper tower. The only way to go up to the upper tower was to bring a certain mirror in alignment with a painting of a stairwell, and you'd be transported there. So I and some associates went there. We discovered an apparatus that apparently had 6 or 7 tanks of simulacra. That's my best educated guess. I'll describe to her what the fluid was like, the colors, what the simulacra looked like. I have discovered the ability to tap into the weaves and tap into thoughts. And my faculty for that was overloaded. So many thoughts. They were all being fed into some sort of a centralized box connected by cables to the tanks. And you could see at times the simulacras would jerk around as if they were having a vivid dream or something like that, almost like a meeting was being stored, probably stored or retrieved. But it was all sealed away by this barrier that I could see the weaves were very strong, but I haven't quite worked out yet completely how you can deconstruct weaves. And I'm making some first stabbings in how you could achieve teleportation, so that the barrier wouldn't be an obstacle. But unfortunately, those are still things I'm tinkering out. I haven't found a way to do that. So we decided to try touching the barrier, which was transparent, to see if there was some way to drop it. And in that, a creature came out that, well, now it's been revealed to be an aberration, humanoid insectoid creature. It has the ability to suck magic by wounding the brain of a practitioner. And it was a creature that I had seen in Ironlock Prison as well, because the police have been rounding up practitioners, taking them to Ironlock Prison, subjugating with these creatures, because they basically turn them into sort of mindless drones, and they suppress their magic. I barely got out by myself alive. I did a basic infiltration at first with the aid of a ghost, the ghost of an escaped prisoner who happened to know how to get out and get in. And then when I went inside, I couldn't go too far. The alarm was raised. I fled. Then some agents from my team I sent in to try and get the remains of one of these creatures and get out a prisoner. He was successful. The prisoner right now is sedated, and I've left instructions with my agent to leave him with some practitioners and give them some herbal concoction to keep him unconscious until we can see whether he's still connected to these creatures, because apparently the creatures could connect to him, they could hone in on him, and they could control him. So we don't know whether that's what the range of that is. And we also want to see if there's any way to restore him to his normal mind and his normal abilities, but I don't have the answer of that yet. So they basically have pinned things on the mages to hunt down more of them, to take them out of play. And it doesn't seem like they're trying to use their magic, just to suppress it, which made me think that Worthington is just trying to keep the level of magic low enough that what he's doing won't set off the Essence Devourer, since that's his main obsession, his main focus. But then we discovered, with the help of another expert, that there was actually 3 levels of aberrant creatures. We found this insectoid one that was always kept out of sight. He used a prison guards in closed situations. I saw him in Worthington's Tower. I saw him in Ironlock Prison. The spellhounds, in fact, are insectoid creatures who have the ability to appear like other animals. A herbalist of mine found a concoction to throw off their ability to sense the vibrations in the weave, like a bad smell. So that helped me to practice spells more openly, just small spells and things. But we also found this creature that was found in the bay that, from its brain structure, seems like a much more highly intelligent creature. And I described her what the head looked like in detail. Actually, what I do is I think I got minor illusion when I leveled up. Yeah, with my minor illusion, because Fletcher, he did the minor illusion for me in perfect 3D, so I walked around it. I memorized it, and so I'm projecting the same thing to her. We didn't have a chance to dissect it, but it apparently has a very developed frontal lobe, a very dense cerebral cortex, which indicates, high intellectual activity. The tentacles, at least from what I've seen, they're reminiscent of what this insectoid does, but they're a lot more complex. It seems like they could devour the brain entirely if they wished. I mean, to the point that I wonder whether this thing even feeds on brains, but I haven't seen a live one. So somehow these creatures are interconnected, and I don't think they're entirely in league with Worthington. I think Worthington has subjugated them, because one of our associates found a subjugation enchantment on the ring of one of these insectoid guards. So somehow he's co-opted them. The simulacra chamber that I found was connected to some sort of a hive mind or a conduit for filtering through all these memories and putting them into the simulacra to eventually prepare them for people that Worthington is going to replace. And this was happening while the band was playing downstairs. So after I discovered this, and through a series of missteps, we had encounters with one or two of these creatures. One of whom I have it in my pouches now if you want to see it, but I took all the relevant pieces off of it and transported them out of there. These are the insectoid humanoid creatures. I went downstairs and it occurred to me to attempt to read thoughts again. And there was a similar process of sort of almost like staring into a blinding light by analogy. But it was hard because of the blinding light to see how many lights were there, but it was thoughts. But I did catch a glimmer without being able to lock onto any thoughts that there was some sort of a mind behind the minds, some sort of a hive mind relationship that I don't entirely understand.
And when
And
you
that in
say that,
this,
she sort of sits back in her chair and takes a cup of coffee and takes a big drink, and then she puts it back down. And she breathes deeply, and she says, "Go on. I'm sorry. I'm very intrigued by what you're saying."
so one of my associates also discovered that there was a painting of a beautiful woman
Mhm.
in that same chamber where the concert was taking place that had characteristics of being alive. But I had already checked it once. It didn't have any magical signature on it whatsoever. But I wondered, at that point, I wondered whether what was going on in that chamber was somehow the concert, the little concert that they did, it was a little concert in honor of Worthington. The people who were present, that was being channeled somehow, perhaps through that painting to that other chamber for the preparation of further simulacra. And I don't know whether it was an entirely magical process or some other process that would not increase the magic threshold and set off the essence devourer. So it wasn't clear to me whether those hive minds were actually people in that room who he had already co-opted, or people that he was in the process of co-opting, starting with getting their personality imprint, if you will, so that he could start preparing simulacra of them and then exchange them in an opportune moment. So that got me thinking, if this in miniature is what Worthington is planning to do tonight at the big concert, is it magic or not? I'm starting to think it's not. I'm starting to think that somehow coming in league with these other creatures, he's found a power source that will not invoke the attention of the essence devourer, and that somehow it draws from the esteem directed from Worthington. He's somehow able to process that, or these creatures process it, and they turn it into a power source so that he can definitively put some sort of a mental lockdown on the city, or at least the upper echelons, and thus stop their plan to start using magic and preparing to counter the storm giant invasion, which seems to have been what triggered this paranoia in the first place.
Hmm.
Then lastly, we also discovered that apparently something was involved in setting in this arrangement where he had access to basically the magic to make a wish.
Yes.
This wish involves some sort of a pact with a fey creature that ended up somehow disabilitating or doing something to the fey creature, some sort of a curse or something, that also had the effect of suppressing the ability of certain magics working. And that if this creature were found for some reason in the binding of the wish and received true love's kiss, or kissed out of love, or fell in love with someone and kissed, that magic would fall apart.
Hmm.
And it seems to me that that would be some sort of a big cog in his scheme that would cause it to break down.
Yes.
So in my mind, and these are the limits of my expertise, I would appreciate first if there's any insight you would have about teleportation. But more importantly, I'm starting to learn how the weaves flow and things, and I just feel like I'm this close to being able to figure out how to disrupt them. So I'm wondering whether I need to disrupt certain things to at least start a chain of events where we get in contact with this Fey creature, and get her to show her love and to break this wish so that that all unravels. But I'm also wondering if you could share any insights about whether Worthington has in fact found an alternative power source that he's using, any more insights on what he's using it to do, and how we can disrupt it at the concert tonight. Because I believe the concert is the opportunity, because it's going to be a concert about Worthington, to puff up everyone's expectations and admiration for Worthington so much that it's going to empower him somehow. And
Yes.
I don't know what comes after that.
Well, I think this is very interesting. This Worthington, he is so, she says, well, I have a hunch about the concert. It's only a hunch. Remember that magic here does not work as it seems in other places or at other times and so forth. I wonder, she says. Worthington is channeling the esteem into something. You are quite right about that. That's very astute. He's a proud man. Very, very proud. Very, very proud. And everything along the way seems very calculated. I know this and from the while back that he was uh, at wit's end with the rest of the Council of Eight. Many, many disagreements. He lost complete faith in them, but he was also the most powerful among them. And so it doesn't surprise me that he would take them out one by one. And then it is brilliant to be able to put simulacra of them, but he needed a way to control them. And that I don't know, but I do think that this alliance with some other reality or some other force, this is how he was doing it. And you keyed in on that. Well, I think with this hive mind, some sort of mind that is able to do this. Now, where he would have found this mind or how it operates in such a way that is not necessarily magic, so that it doesn't awaken the essence devour, he must have entered into some sort of alliance with that hive mind creature. Hmm. Now, when you made the image of that creature, it makes me think about what I once read in a book and something that I don't want to ever encounter, and I hope. But Worthington himself would be so bold as to enter into this sort of. You showed her the image, right, of the mind flayer.
Yes. Yeah, and
Yes.
she could, and it was 3D because I used the minor illusion spell. She could walk all the way around it, look at it from every angle.
Let me show you a cookbook that I have. And she sort of smiles and she goes over and comes back and there she's going, it's different. It's like a monster menagerie of creatures and so forth. And she stops at one where you come to the one that is the one that you saw here. And she says, these have been known as mind flayers. They eat brains and they eat intellects and devour them, she says. And then they are led by, and she turns it over to the next page, an elder brain, which is some sort of hive mind like reality. Perhaps this is what Worthington has entered into some sort of agreement with. My hunch is they both feel like it was got to be a very precarious relationship. They probably feel like they each one of them is manipulating the other in some way, she said. He's definitely playing with fire.
Yeah, so then the question for me is perhaps is
Perhaps
that
Worthington showed them a way to devour magic and not the full intellect. And but by devouring magic, taking them over to uh, Iron Lock Prison, he's not raising the level of. He's keeping them sated. They're having their uh, their muffins, so to speak, enough to keep them going,
Mhm.
but not yet the full brain that they devour. But it's tasty enough, a tasty enough morsel that they will stay in this relationship as long as it will last. Worthington gets what he wants as he keeps the level of magic reduced such that the essence devour doesn't break through the weave and into our existence. And he can grow in power through esteem.
Does the elder brain need to feed too?
It likely does.
And perhaps I'm wondering if he's feeding the esteem to the elder brain in exchange for the elder brain's dominance.
Perhaps I have a hunch that he's feeding himself with the esteem.
What's the elder brain feeding on?
That's the deep question now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, I have heard that there are different ways. So here is my theory, and it's only a theory based on what you have said. And
Mhm.
I've taken notes. And she starts like sort of jogging her. Let me see if I can get it all right. This is what I think is I had not thought of the simulacra. I had thought that Worthington would take out the rest of the eight. It makes sense that his plan would have been foiled with Grognard because Grognard is an undead. He
I
thought
was
he
starting to
perhaps
suspect that. I was
he
starting to
probably
suspect
thought
that.
he had killed him, but Grognard went back to his coffin, so to speak, right? And Worthington did not know that, and but didn't think it worthwhile to go to the tomb or back to Grognard's tower to confront him directly. That is what my hunch is there. The rest of them, however, are not. However, I think that Worthington is in a quest to become himself some form of undead. That his thirst for power and his pride is so great that he himself thinks that if he's undead, he can take on the essence devour itself, because the essence devour would not be able to kill him.
So he's turning his esteem into power. And that's why he's seeking greater levels of power because he's using that as his power source. And that probably means that what he wants to do in the council tomorrow night is get such a jolt of power because that kind of esteem is not going to be maintained. That somehow that's going to fuel his ascendancy to
Into
some
some
sort of an undead practitioner.
of what a wizard might
Um,
call a lich or something of that, some sort of form.
yeah, yes,
Steam
yes. Some of
itself
my
would
studies, some I've seen from my studies that like as a logical consequence, there's a possibility that a very powerful wizard, I didn't know what the name of it was, but he could achieve such a state through necromantic energy that he
yes,
simply perpetuates and it's very hard to disrupt the process.
very
And
hard to
that could be
persuade.
what he's doing.
You hear my train?
Oh, I actually didn't. Um,
Okay.
so your microphone works very well.
Yeah. Uh,
So
I think that that is what it is up with. That this could be, with all of Manhattanheim singing his praises, enough power to propel Worthington into the next state of his existence. And in this immortal state of existence, he has no reason to fear the essence devour any longer.
mhm.
That is what I think is perhaps happening. Of course, this would never have been possible with the eight around. They would have seen it immediately, and the checks and balances within the eight, they would have kept him from doing something like that. And
Well, I hate to say it this way, but a logical consequence would be that if he's achieved immortality, he doesn't even care if the essence of power destroys the entire city because he knows that it'll live on.
that's quite likely.
He
Yeah.
could get that insane in this. So perhaps this wish spell has shifted his ability to turn as steam into the power he needs for this. And if
Yes.
we throw that out of awry, it will disrupt the entire process. Now, the other question that logically
Now
comes to
here
mind.
is a twist that I have gathered. When Worthington cast the wish spell, there was a break in the weave. You described these hands that were pushing forth, right, through the weave.
Mm-hmm,
When
mm-hmm,
Worthington
mm-hmm.
cast the wish spell, thankfully the essence devour did not break through, but Worthington had to make some sort of risk. And I have strong reason to believe, look, the essence devour can make spawn of itself. That some spawn of the essence devour did break through. Who and what and where, what form it took, I do not know. It's possible that it broke through and became one of these storm giants that are now starting to, whip up some sort of revolt and want to retake the city. That is quite possible. It could be some other form. I don't know. You know.
So it could be the very thing Worthington was trying to prevent. He unwittingly already did it.
Yes, in this risk for his own, ultimately to become immortal himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That
So
much I do not know. Those are things that we will need to find.
yeah, but yeah, and I could see where that would happen. Now the question is, even theoretically, theoretically, because I know it's not just practitioners this is impacted, but the gods seem to have withdrawn or been held in check as well.
Yes.
If the gods' agency returns to the city, there might even be some chance of bringing Netta back.
There would
And she
be.
would be a wellspring. She would be a wellspring of information and
Yes.
helping to restore balance. So, but I think the most immediate thing we need to do, okay, the scion, if you will, the avatar of the essence devourer is somewhere plotting something.
Yes.
But right now, the more immediate plot is Worthington. So my first question is Worthington simply masquerading as the king? Or is Worthington just safely hidden away somewhere, letting all of his pieces come into play? And kind of get the feeling, I haven't done detect thoughts in the presence of the king. I would suspect that I might be able to identify Worthington in that situation, whether it really is Worthington or a simulacra. But there's no way to know for sure unless I got close to him before the concert or during the concert or something. Because we'll have to keep an eye on him. The other thing is I'm convinced it has something to do if that apparatus up on the tower is like a harness plugging into the elder brain, or it is the elder brain itself. If we destroy that thing, we are going to short something major out. It could even be that those guards are channeling the energy into the elder brain because we're talking about a hive mind. That's how it's getting fed. So if we disconnect the source of that feeding, we don't know how the elder brain is going to react or any of those minions either. They may go crazy. They may leave. Unfortunately, they may kill every prisoner in there because they're going to be so insane with hunger and not restricted anymore. However, it is interesting that all those guards have domination rings on them. So hopefully those rings will last long enough that they'll be restrained from feeding on those poor wizards any farther than they should. And once we get the city mobilized, they can take care of them. It's not going to rely on practitioners.
Yes.
So this is what I'm thinking. Are there a couple of strategies for disrupting the esteem flow to Worthington? Yes. But it may not come to that if we act quickly. I think if we could get back into the tower, get on the other side of that barrier, and disrupt whatever that central apparatus is, and do whatever we need to do with that strange portrait on the wall. If it's the conduit, we disrupt it. If it's the fey creature, we turn it back into a fey creature to break the wish. That may be enough for now. Although I think a key part of this is unmasking Worthington too. And I think the best way to unmask Worthington, because this is all very complicated, the people are not going to understand it. But if there's some way to unmask Worthington on the stage as being horrible and still alive and scheming, that will sour the esteem of the people against him.
Well, she
You think
says.
about that. You think about that. I need a bio break. I'll be right back. This is too
Okay.
exciting. All right. Okay, so seems to me that what our next step is
I
destroyer
would think
disable
he
the.
says
I'm
regarding
sorry. Yeah, you were
yes,
going to talk.
regarding your next step, I would think that getting in back into Worthington's tower after the disruption that happened that you described, I think it would be much more precarious, and Worthington certainly will be on his guard about that. It wouldn't be as easy just to, I would think, I don't know. Perhaps
Yes,
Worthington is completely diverted by all of his other machinations. But
but
I,
it is also true that we left two guards up in that dead guards up in that chamber with no apparent explanation.
no apparent
So,
explanation, and I am quite impressed by your expertise and your growth and power. And Worthington will definitely notice this. If somebody can take out these insectoid creatures, was able to see these odd figures with this being controlled by this the brain that you described. Um, yes, she said, I just don't think that he's not going to take very kindly to that.
well, I was hoping it would end up
Perhaps.
being an end play disrupting him, and that would solve the problem. But I agree, it seemed like a brute force solution
No,
because.
she says, this is an interesting thing. I just noted this as you were speaking. You said the band was performing downstairs in Worthington's honor as the other group was upstairs doing their thing. Perhaps Worthington was so enthralled by hymns of praise in his honor that he was diverted from noticing.
It does
But
certainly seem that his ego can blind him.
I think that is, yes, very true.
It just seems that there's one of two things to do. Either we have to think really well about going into Worthington's tower and shorting out his whole mechanism. Well, now I think of three things to do. The first thing we could try is cutting a better deal with his elder brain, but who knows where the elder brain is and how you could cut a deal with it. So that's just spitballing. The other is, do we have the tools now to do a more surreptitious infiltration of Worthington's tower to get back up to that chamber? Do I have a way to get on the other side of that barrier so that we can disrupt it, whether it means destroying it outright or whether it means making it look like something blew up, whether it even seems like the elder brain turned on him, if in fact the elder brain is up there.
If you had the recipe for teleportation, would you be able to bake it?
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm this close. I actually, well, I'm pretty sure I've come up with something, but it's not, I just haven't been able to, let me look at my spell book. I just haven't been able to get the stability I needed to be able to use it reliably. Let me get my spell book here. Oh, never mind. I didn't get it. Okay. That is exactly what I thought was called for in this. The only thing with my limited skill right now I could figure out is to disable the barrier. But I know it's got to be a very powerful barrier, and I might trigger it again. But if you had some ability of displacement in space that doesn't involve an actual translocation, physical translocation, that would help
I can
tremendously.
I could teach you how do you make teleport muffins, so to speak, she says, how to bake that. I can teach you that recipe. But the barrier, I have a hunch, is much more would be much more of an obstacle. Um,
Well, another thought that comes to mind is I have figured out the ability of I've I have the ability to summon an unseen servant. What I could do is come close to the barrier, summon the servant on the other side of the barrier, and then just instruct the servant to unplug things. It has no destructive power per se, unless I were to put something destructive in its hands. We could work up some sort of an explosive or something if we needed to, or it simply unplug all the cables and see what happened. It could uncover it so that I could see whether in fact it's the elder brain. Um, or something like that. Because I agree, if this barrier is already set up for doing some sort of an extraplanar summary, which it's either a very powerful teleportation this plane or it's pulling something from another plane, I could see that where that would cause a lot of interference, and that's part of my problem. Even though I haven't mastered the fundamentals of even basic teleportation yet.
yes. Well, let me see here. Uh, I think that's your best bet. I wouldn't mess with it. I wouldn't mess with the
The teleportation.
no, 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 not the teleportation. I think The I wouldn't mess with the barrier, she says. If you can
Mhm.
find some other way to get in there, I think that would work.
But you're saying teleportation may not work to cross the barrier. Is that
It
what I'm
could.
hearing?
I think it could.
Okay. I think that would be the best thing to do because I would love to be there in front of the thing myself. The unseen servant would not be the best. It's of limited effectiveness and strength. I mean, it's basically just a little facchino, as they say in
Yeah.
Romeheim.
Yeah.
So it's not ideal.
What?
So if you can teach me that recipe, I would be very grateful.
Okay, stepping out of the adventure, what particular spell do you want?
I would assume that you would want to give me something. Okay, the one that's powerful, but it's probably too powerful for me right now to even learn would be teleport. But
Right.
I'm thinking Misty Step.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. Misty Step is a simple teleportation spell that's within my possibilities right now. It might even be less than I think it might even be just level 2 or something.
I think that
So
funny enough, I was trying to Google it here, D&D Beyond, and wasn't getting it. Oh, there it is. Second level bonus action.
yeah, second level bonus action. Now it only applies to me, so I would be taking a little bit of a risk, and I got to make sure that I have enough slots to make a quick escape. But that should get me on the other side of the barrier. And that would allow me to get a closer look to the whole apparatus because then I can figure out what's better, destroy it, sabotage it. If I find out that it actually is the elder brain itself, which I'm not too sure, but it might be, uh, I can gauge whether we're powerful enough to kill the elder brain, which I doubt. But if we could at least tick it off or disable it,
She said, based on what I've read about the Elder Brain, I can't see that that would be the Elder Brain there.
yeah, I think it's some sort of an apparatus.
Some sort of apparatus
Uh,
that is connected to the Elder Brain.
Now, at this point, out of game again, I should mention that Mr. Fletcher, since he took aberrations as his one of his favorite enemies now, he has a couple of ranger abilities that might help in this regard. That's why I just want to throw it out there in case you want to work this in. Okay. Um, he has this thing called primeval awareness, where he can sense whether any aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, or undead are present within 1 mile of you, or within up to 6 miles if you are in your favored terrain. So if he were to go into the city, he would be able to tell where any of these things are within 1 mile of him. It doesn't
Like
tell the location
the actual
lo
coordinates, or only that they are within a mile.
that they are within 1 mile. So it doesn't reveal the creature's location or number. However, so firstly, that would enable him to, like, if they had some places where they wanted to check in the city, some more logical places. It doesn't say, it just says there's an aberration. It doesn't say how big or how small it is. Now from there, let's see, features and traits. I have advantage on survival checks to track favored enemies, as well as on intelligence checks to recall information about them.
So what's the great distance for what's Mr. Fletcher's distance?
When he's in his favorite terrain, like if they were in the forest, he chose his second favorite terrain, which was the forest. His first one is the Underdark. So if that thing was down in the sewers or something, he could find it within 6 miles, or the forest.
Okay.
Up in the city, that's not his favorite terrain, doesn't even offer it as a favorite terrain. He can only find it within 1 mile. But that also makes sense too, because there's all this development and people and things. So he's probably like he'd be overloaded trying to track it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll role play that out with Mr. Fletcher when we get there. Uh
Okay.
yeah, so she gives you her recipe for it that's written on a piece of paper. She kind of leads you how to say it, and she says laced into this is the magical weave is laced into this recipe for peppermint scones.
Yum, I get a treat and I get the guess magic.
Yes. So the verbal part of the spell is actually the word peppermint scone.
Peppermint scone.
And
Peppermint scone.
you like yes, so that's
Pepper.
uh,
Okay. All right. That being said, I don't know, I know I'm close. I've kind of worked out these two spells. I don't know if you could kind of help me. Like I kind of break out my little spell book notes.
okay.
I got two third level spells, Dispel Magic and Hypnotic Pattern.
Okay.
Okay, Hypnotic Pattern, if you remember, is the thing where you put this big shiny colored thing up
Oh
in
yeah.
the air,
Yeah, it's
and people within
awesome.
a certain range look at it, and then they're just like, ooh, shiny, right? So I already know in the arena situation it wouldn't affect everybody. Just people like within a certain range, but it could come useful in a fight. But since they're third level spells, I figure I need a little help to figure out how to do them, just to finalize it, so to speak. Now that we're entered into the threshold of those
Yes.
kinds of
She says, "Oh, those I can help you with," she says. And she gives you the she walks you through how to do it. However,
that's what I was missing.
yes. At the very end of it, she says, "Now be ready. When you start getting into spells of this potency, odd things can happen when you cast because of the weave and so forth."
Yes. At least I'm hoping with the dispel one, it'll mitigate by the fact that I'm eliminating magic into the balance by
Yeah,
dispelling it. So, but the other one, it's only going to be used as a last resort.
I would keep it that way, she says, only as a last resort.
Now, would she mind if I did a quick read of that book about aberrations that she showed me? Or is it like a big thing that I'd have to borrow it and spend time offline? Because I may just ask her some
Yeah,
specific
she says,
questions
go
instead.
ahead and read the pages. So you can
Okay.
page.
The
Um,
main question that I have in mind right now is
yeah.
that does it say in those pages that that link persists when the bug boy has been feeding on somebody's mind, and do people recover from that?
The link persists.
Okay, so
Uh,
we got to keep that guy unconscious. Otherwise, from what I've read, if that guy regains consciousness, he's going to plug right back in and they're going to go like, ding, I know where he is. And they're going to come looking for him.
yes.
Okay. Do I see any way to eliminate that?
Killing him.
Oh, man. Is there, okay. Is there any way that his intellect and magic will be restored, or are they gone permanently?
Gone permanently.
Gone permanently. Wow.
It's devoured. Eaten.
It, that bites, literally.
Yes, it's eaten.
Okay.
It goes into feeding the mind flare.
All those wizards are gone. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You're left
Well,
wondering why the mind flare, why not just kill them off? There's that question, right? But devour the whole brain, why only the magical or the
Yeah.
part that's used for the magic and so forth.
Why are they being kept alive?
Yes.
If what it drains out of them is just eaten and gone, why are they still being kept alive? So that's still something I got to figure out. Now, it is also true too that if we somehow take them out of the equation permanently, then at least the ones in the prison, we can just make their lives comfortable, as miserable and limited as they would be, because they no longer
Yeah.
provide a threat. Okay. All right. Um, and then the only other thing I wanted to pick your brain on is I'm thinking with this disruptive magic that if we do, even though it's a little more conspicuous, if we're going to do all this trouble to get into Worthington's Tower anyway, perhaps we can try disrupting the magic of that portrait on the wall. Because I just get the feeling that it has something to do with that fey creature that we need to release.
Yeah.
And that may enable us to disrupt the wish spell.
That I don't know, she says.
Yeah.
I do think that's a good hunch that is somehow connected to
Yeah.
a
And
creature.
while we're in there and taking all the risks infiltrating the tower, this will probably be the last time we get into that tower before Worthington really knows something is going on. So the other question too is whether we maybe try doing it simultaneously while his ego is blinded by the concert being getting ready. Because he'll pay attention to that and he'll think he has a snowed.
That sounds very interesting, she says. I would think that that is the way to go. I was really drawn to that point when you said that you were able to get up into the second level or third level of his tower while his praises were being sung at the concert. It seems to me that he would have been, if he wasn't enthralled, he would have known and been there. If somebody
It
walked
still
into my,
makes
if somebody walked into my kitchen and started eating all of my muffins, I have ways of knowing that, you know, unless I'm just completely distracted or enthralled by something else.
yeah.
That is my hunch as to what happened. He was so taken or drawing power from it, uh, lusting after it, so to speak, that he just was growing, and it completely distracted him.
So if we synchronize with the team at the stadium so that maybe a half an hour before we go in, he's definitely going to be focusing his attention by then on the stadium, making sure all the preparations are coming into effect. And that way, if I can coordinate with Marshmallow and the Breakfast Club, the infiltration team can go in and take care of that. Marshmallow and the Breakfast Club can do the whole tuning up thing until it's time to start the concert. But hopefully by then it'll be disrupted and he won't even realize it because he thinks it's all coming into play.
Um,
Now, there,
I would think, she says, and this is just my hunch. I don't know this. This is beyond, well beyond me, but I'm just thinking that it is probably the when he starts to receive praise and esteem and adulation, that this is where he goes into so enthralled,
a stupor of some sort.
some sort of stupor that he misses what is going on around him. So the time to
Infiltrate is when the concert starts and
and
people
the con-
start.
when the marshmallow and the band is singing the praises of Worthington and the whole auditorium, the whole stadium, the whole city of Manhattanheim is singing his praise, that's probably the time to disrupt.
Okay, that
Perhaps.
sounds like a that sounds like a good plan because we have a wild card. Um, there's this kind of shifty little guy who he shared with me that he's actually a very famous older entertainer in the city.
Hmm.
And he's very interested in thwarting this plan. He might be able to divert some esteem toward himself if he reveals himself as he truly is. But I don't know if that would help or that would hurt. And that's more of a wait and see thing. That's something we'll have to talk about.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the plan I'm going to propose to my team. We need to synchronize watches, so to speak, that I go in 5 minutes into the start of the concert. We just have to hope that if he starts feeding on the esteem, it's not like a jolt and he's done. Apparently, it needs to be over an extended period of time to kind of pump him up. I wish there was some way of identifying which of these people he is. I suspect he's the king, but we don't know for sure. And then I will get in there and try to disrupt things as quickly as possible. And I have no effective way of getting a message to the stadium. So we're just going to have to entrust it to the gods at that point in our skills. And each of us will just have to play it blow by blow as it happens and assess
Yeah.
the situation.
Sounds like a wonderful plan.
All right. So that is what I'm going to propose to my team. And I think they'll be favorable. I think that's the best option. And these recipes you gave me are invaluable.
They are indeed. They're one of some of my best. Well, I have better ones, but in due time, you'll perhaps be.
Yes. Oh, trust me, these ones are so heavy already that I don't think I could digest the bigger ones yet. Peppermint scone. Peppermint scone.
All right.
All right. Well, that was awesome.
That was awesome. Yes, indeed. Man, oh man.
So, one thing that comes to mind, this is more of a metagaming question,
Yeah.
is since we're doing this the same night as the breakfast thing, my slots are saturated as a wizard because I pulled out all the stops. My wand is empty. But if we have it tonight, which is what tonight in the story, which I think we already did, that's
Yep.
basically the way we're going to have to go in.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. I mean, even theoretically now, depending on when the concert started, I mean, I could go home and rest up. Fletcher is rested up because he was asleep while the concert thing was going on.
Yeah.
Um, it's only an issue for the magic users.
So you would need to go back to rest up.
Yeah. And
Okay.
depending on he could still pull it off depending on when the because he also has short rest, he has arcane recovery. With arcane
Okay.
recovery, it means he can recover up to a level 2 spell.
Okay.
Okay, one level 2 spell or 2 level 1 spells. He just turned 5th, so he just got his level 3 spell slots. He has 2 level 3 spell spots. He hasn't used them at all yet. So
Okay.
his 3rd level spells, he can do that twice.
So, and you could use the arcane recovery.
Yes, with a short rest. That
Okay.
I can easily do. I think I
Okay.
can only do it once between long rests, but I can do it. So I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. That
Yep.
does make it theoretically a little harder, but
Yep.
I also agree it was always weird to me that we were putting off the concert because it seems everything's leading up to that.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why too, if I see that I don't have the magic to pursue the thing with the painting, my focus is on disrupting that thing upstairs. If the thing about the painting that may be the fake creature, and also metagaming, Antonio's not going to be around anyway, so we'll see what happens there. And then I got my answers in terms of I will follow up with Mr. Fletcher. What Mr. Fletcher's going to do is his boys are going to smuggle that guy out of the city. He's going to send the guy to Londonheim or something, sedated, and just dump him in the streets.
Okay.
And when he wakes up, he's just going to be another guy in the streets. That way we don't have to kill him. He's probably too far away for them to find him. And if they do find him, they can't trace it back to us.
Now, who's
So
playing tomorrow?
seems like everybody except for Antonio.
Oh, okay. Great.
Because I've been seeing the accepteds. Let me look at the poll. Antonio said he couldn't, but I think everybody else said they could. Let me go to the poll. Did I vote myself again? What did I do? Oh, I unvoted myself. I have to be careful because I'm a voter too. Yes, Father Devin, Father Michael, Father John, myself, and you.
Okay.
And the next time we're going to have critical mass will actually be Saturday the 7th.
Now, some of those days
Because,
where there's three, um,
yeah, we could do something in some of those days.
where I
Yeah.
could play. Yeah, we could play some games there. Um, okay. What are your
Okay.
thoughts on when we get the new material, perhaps? When does that next edition come out?
It's not till the fall.
Oh, until next year or the next fall?
Oh, this fall. I read it and they say it's revised fifth edition.
Yeah.
So they've changed up some of the mechanics. I'm uh I'm reading I mean I've been reading the articles
Okay.
about what's new. So if we focus to the mechanics and things, I got no issue with it. I mean the woke stuff is the woke stuff. It doesn't mean you need to play like you're woke.
The
So
artwork is horrendous.
yeah, I
I
haven't looked at the artwork at all. I
oh,
just looked at a couple of the because I know like Father Devin and Father Michael have probably been reading every article that comes out because they're all excited about the mechanics and stuff.
yeah.
I know that stuff. Even the stuff that I read, I said, okay, that's interesting, but it doesn't change the experience that much.
Yeah, I think if we can just get the mechanics, as long as I
Yeah.
can use the well, the dungeon master can do whatever they want. But I like the old fashioned um
Yeah.
so
Because I think they're going to need to set up some sort of a legacy switch. They're probably going to turn the player's handbook as it is right now into a legacy player's handbook, like they did
okay.
with Volo's Guide to Monsters,
Yeah,
because people paid money to own that stuff.
yeah,
They can't just say, oh no, and then charge us the second time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now they did. I read a couple articles where they said they gave upper tier monsters. They developed the monsters a little bit better, but in some ways, but I still think like they try to neuter a lot of things down and demasculinize it. So I'm just like, I like the way that I love Volo's Guide and how those that's the kind of thing I. So as long as we keep that, but I think you know there's always space for crafting our own worlds and homebrew and things like
Yeah.
that. So,
See, the basic premise is they did not like the fact that of racial bonuses.
right.
So what did they do? They moved the bonuses to the backgrounds.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the bonuses became a cultural thing that had nothing to do with race.
Right. Right. Right.
But it's an absurd premise because we're dealing with different genus.
Yeah.
Illithid are not the same as elves, are not the same
Yeah.
as they don't have some genus that they're all species of.
Right.
The
Right.
differences are substantial, not accidental. But of course, they don't understand metaphysics
Yeah.
explicitly or implicitly.
Yeah.
So it's this idea of everybody racially, genetically has to be completely equal,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
it's true to a certain degree when you're talking about what color skin somebody has, because that is an accident, black, white, brown, yellow, whatever.
But
It's
not.
based on achievement
Yeah.
and some culture and environment factors. But when you're talking about different creatures of different provenances, it's
Right.
like that's why they take it to they start talking about speciesism, that all of a sudden a cheetah has the same right as a human being.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
it makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. Well, that's great. Well,
All
I'll be
right.
interested to see what happens. Good.
Okay. So
So
I'm going
you,
to write up, I will write up in the chat this afternoon, like those two essential threads that we talked about.
yep.
And I will write up so that they can start thinking about it now, the plan I proposed for tomorrow, so that when we start tomorrow, we're already hashing out the final details of the plan
Yep.
without a lot of speculating and stuff.
And at some point, what I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think we recorded it, but when you explained your grimoire's thoughts around everything that's happening, that would be really good. Of course, now you have further insight as well to complement it. So,
Oh yeah, I'm gonna totally summarize it.
okay, good,
All right,
great.
great.
All right, fine. Great. Have a great
Thank
day.
you very much. It was great.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
so much fun. All right, take care.
Okay,
Bye bye.
bye.